I'm Megan, and thank you for joining me today. This one is going to go into the somatics menu. However, we're going to do a little bit more with exploration today. All somatics is an exploration, but this exploration, we will be using balls and breathing more than anything else. So before you get started, make sure you have either a tennis ball, or I have these soft pink balls, but something about this size. A golf ball would work too, or drier balls are great to have. And then if you don't have a slo-mo, you're going to need your slo-mo or some sort of flat, rolly thing where you can take some of the air out of it. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to put two of my favorite things together, and this is very much my creation. So if you go to read about it on the internet afterwards, you may find different information. We have what's called the diaphragms of the body. The most familiar one being our respiratory diaphragm, right, that we have here, and that's what we breathe with, the engine of our breathing. But we have other diaphragms in our body, and depending on what modality you're following, some say 4, some say as many as 7 or 8. I work with 5, and the reason I work with the 5 diaphragms is because in yoga we teach about the 5 Vayus, which are wind energies. So the word Vayu actually means wind in Sanskrit. And we have prana, which is like chi, or the life force energy. And that is prana with a big P, meaning what we bring in to connect us to our source, but also what vitalizes our entire body. And that prana moves in different directions. So think of a windy day right now. We have all the leaves falling down in Wisconsin. The leaves don't just drop straight down, right? They might go up a little ways, and they go side to side and back and forth. It's a little bit like our bodies. We have these different wind energies, or Vayus, that move things in different ways in our body. And we'll get into a deeper explanation of each of those 5 Vayus, because I correlate the Vayus, the 5 Vayus, with the 5 diaphragms of the body. So we're going to start standing, so go ahead and get yourself up if you're really comfortable. So first let's talk about what it means to have a diaphragm in your body. So diaphragms run across your body this way. And the word diaphragm in Greek actually means partition. So we have in our body these tissues, it's fascial tissue, connective tissue, that actually divides our body. So think of, it divides one section from the other, but the other thing is in that division, it's also bringing together certain body cavities. So if the diaphragm is here, it's separating the abdominal cavity from the thoracic or the chest cavity. So up here we have our heart and our lungs. Down here we have our organs of elimination, right? So this is one of those examples of a way that it both partitions, but also brings together. So what we know about the diaphragms when we work with the subtle body is that they communicate with one another. They're a crossroad of information. So they start, in my world, they start with the feet. And when you walk, that signal has to go all the way up to your brain, right? So the information on the subtle level and through the tissues, the connective tissues, needs to get all the way through those partitions. So we want to keep them healthy, and we want to be aware of them. So again, I like to correlate the diaphragms with the pranavayus. And that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start with standing. Unless you're uncomfortable standing, you can do this first part sitting in a chair. Otherwise, come on up to standing. And we're going to connect some breathing, some pranayama, with these 5 diaphragms. So first, feeling yourself on your feet, whether you're seated or standing. You can rock back and forth or side to side. You might even lift your toes and play them like piano keys to feel yourself connected. So we're connecting to the diaphragm in the foot. And it's in the soft tissue. So if you can notice where you have the arch in your foot, where you feel not the heel and not the clown foot in the front, the ball of the foot, but that arch. And just notice your arch. And now sense your natural breath. You can breathe anywhere into your body. But as you're breathing into your body, let the exhalation take whatever you just took in down and out. So you can think of your pelvis and the base of the pelvic floor. Let it go down through your legs and all the way into the ground. So imagine breathing from anywhere into your body. It might be your heart center, the brow point. You pick your home for your awareness in the upper body. But let the breath out go down through your body and out. So this is what we call Apana Vayu. And just keep breathing. You can do this with your eyes closed. This is definitely much more of a subtle practice. So some skepticism is fine, but the more that you can be curious, the more it's going to help you to feel this. So just take that childlike curiosity of what does it feel like to breathe down and out through the base of my spine, my legs, and into my feet. As if every time you breathe out, your feet are just being received more and more from the earth. That is the Apana Vayu. And Apana Vayu carries things out, as we can imagine. It's about going down and out. So think of certain things that come out of our bodies from the bottom there, right? Things that we no longer want to carry. And that's the job of Apana Vayu, is to carry things down and out. But we can also say that that flows much better, that downward, when we're connected. We use the term grounding, when we're connected to the earth. So now we've done the breathing. We're going to do a little physical practice. You can grab either ball that you want. Again, you can do this in a chair. If you feel like you're not in balance, you could go and put your hand on a wall as well. So now we're going to take the ball, and remember where that soft tissue was, right? Let's see if I can get my foot up for you. Right in the middle of the arch there. And let's start with the right foot. You're going to put the ball underneath the foot. Line your toes up. Keep your feet about hip distance apart for you so you feel stable. And before you move, just let yourself fall into the ball and notice what you feel. And you're in that soft tissue. Let the weight of the right leg just kind of hang into the ball, and watch that your toes aren't lifting up, or you're not trying, but that you're not tightening the muscles in the foot in any way. Let the muscles relax towards the ground. Take a couple breaths in anywhere into your body. Breathe out now down to that right leg, to the arch of the foot. And you can just be still and just use compression in the ball. Or if you'd like, you might push in and pull away. And different balls will give you different sensations. If this is too much, drier balls work great. So pushing in and pulling away. We can also, of course, and I'm going to switch my ball out for this one, we can also roll the foot on the ball. But if you're doing that, watch that you're not tightening the muscles in the sole of the foot again. Let the toes relax. Might find some sensitive areas. So we're exploring this diaphragm in the foot and breathing out and down on the exhalation. So connecting this downward energy with the feet. Think of stabilizing the feet all the way into the core of the earth. Opening up the feet. And you may feel it just in your foot, but notice if you feel sensation coming all the way up the leg, into the hip or the pelvis. It may change your respiration when you start to roll that foot, and sometimes it's just because there's discomfort, but we do the, right? It'll change your respiration. So keep the respiration going, soft and fluid. Apana Vayu, nice, slow, long breath out from the base of the spine all the way to the foot and into the earth. Think of that leaf falling straight down, but slowly and softly. And just exploring, and you can continue to move. At any time, you can stop and just be still. Be still with just compression, especially if you find a sensitive spot. You don't need to roll it. Or you can be still and just do the push into and pull away from. And you're exploring the inner arch by the big toe side. You can go to the middle of the foot. You can also go all the way to the pinky toe side. And if I make funny faces, it's because I'm finding some of my sensitive spots. You might do the same. Just a few more moments in that right foot. And then come off the ball and stand once again how you were before you started, or maybe you're seated. And now do the breathing again where you feel yourself breathing in, but you feel yourself breathing out all the way down through your legs, into the feet, and the feet into the ground. So the ground is just receiving your feet. Let yourself be received. And is there a difference for you from left to right, right to left? So this is about working with these Vayus, and particularly diaphragms. I think is very much about working with your nervous system and working with how your nervous system reads your body. So your body mapping. Like if I looked at a picture of you right now, both sides look the same, but you know that one side feels different, right? So you're letting yourself pick up on that difference, that subtle difference that you're feeling. We can't see it, but we feel it. And then we'll switch and we'll do the left foot. So remember the options that you can just take the ball underneath the arch of the left foot, relax the toes. You might start with just a slight bit of weight and just compressing, not even moving, just feeling yourself. Sometimes one foot is more sensitive than the other. One can be kind of a crabby stinker and the other one's happy. It just happens that way. And if you want, you can do the push into and pull away from. You might even notice the bones in your foot, right? These are all parts of what's inside. We can't see it in a mirror, but you might feel your bones spread when you push in and then pull away. But really getting right into that soft tissue in the center of the foot. So the movement can be this press in and pull away, or at any time. I'm going to switch my ball. I just like to use the harder one for rolling. You can start to roll your foot around your movement. And as you're doing this, remember to think of your breathing. So the Apana Vayu is downward, but it's also, it's about carrying out, right? So carrying out elimination. Think of elimination, right? So what is it that if you could give whatever you wanted to the earth right now and know that the earth will take it for you, no questions asked, no penalties, no royalties, just let it go into the earth. Rolling through that left foot. Notice how you might feel it through the rest of your body, because our whole body is interconnected. It is one piece of fabric. Okay. And then we'll come off the feet, or come off the ball, not off the feet. And once again, stand. Just stand in a place where you can let your shoulders, just take a sigh, let your shoulders sigh and relax over your hips. Let your hips relax over your feet. And just notice, do you have even just more awareness of your feet and your connection point of your feet on the earth? And that possibility that we have this wind energy carrying things out of us. And not just what we eat, but also it has to eliminate anything that we take in with all of our senses. So the process of elimination is as much mental and emotional as it is physical. So eliminating, letting it go, out and down. Okay, now we're going to come down to a ground position, and you are going to want, eventually you're going to want your other ball, but if you want extra padding on your mat, please feel free to do that. So once you're on the floor, we're going to explore the next diaphragm, which is the pelvic floor, or the pelvic diaphragm. And what I would tell you is we will be seated, and if your back gets crampy or cranky in any way, then take yourself up against a chair, a wall, something to support your backside, because this one's a little tricky to do in a chair. You might want to come down onto the ground. So the first thing we need to do is find where our sits bones are. So the pelvic floor diaphragm is framed out by the front of the pubis, the anus in the back, and the two sits bones. Really important to know, because this is one of your diaphragms, right? It's a divider. It divides the bottom of your torso. It's the bottom of your pelvic bowl that holds all of your organs in, and it divides the legs from the torso. So we're going to use one of the balls. This is where the pinker, softer ball or even a drier ball is really nice to have. And we're going to explore this area. If you want to have extra padding underneath you, you can too. But first, we're going to do it through your breathing. So I'm going to encourage you to sit. Unless you are uncomfortable, you can lie down. And even if we don't feel physical movement in this, and you can sit however you feel best, I want you to take your awareness down into the pelvic floor. So think of this diamond shape, 3 layers of muscle from the pubis to the anus and the 2 sits bones. Just start to breathe. And we're not going to be specific enough that if you don't have to be concerned with whether or not you physically feel motion. But I want you to imagine that every time you breathe in, that pelvic floor diaphragm stretches down towards the ground or away from your navel center. Imagine it stretching out. It's like a flower opening. And every time you breathe out, that flower gently closes back up. Just awareness in the space in the base of the spine. If you're at home alone, you want to use your fingers and find your sits bones, your ischial tuberosities. You can find those, feel them. So we're aware of this space. Really important group of muscles. And they are a partition. They're partitioning our legs from our torso. But they also are part of holding or bringing together body cavity, right? It's the bottom of your pelvis, holding all your pelvic bowl organs in. And you're just breathing to it. You may or may not feel physical movement, but even if you can't feel it, imagine that flower opening on the inhale and gently closing back up on the exhale. So as we breathe in this way, we're moving into Samana Vayu. And Samana Vayu is really centered in the lower abdomen. So it might be nice for you to breathe into the abdomen if you're comfortable doing that, absolutely. Or if you know you can do this better lying down, then do it lying down. But we're going to go into our abdominal breathing, meaning you might feel your abdomen expand as you breathe in and contract as you breathe out. And know that if you're feeling it in the abdomen, the pelvic diaphragm is doing the same thing. It's also expanding as you breathe in and gently contracting or recoiling as you breathe out. And so center yourself in your breathing in the abdomen. So Samana Vayu is about absorption. Everything we absorb, right? We absorb before we eliminate. So we're working our way kind of backwards and up. But we absorb not only our food that we eat, but all of our thoughts. And Samana Vayu is about finding what feels equal in our body. So it's our digestion, absolutely. But not just digesting our food, also digesting the thoughts that we have, absorbing and then digesting. And see if you can find equal inhale and exhale as you absorb and then release. Find that balance. Okay. And then just to help on the physical level, we're going to make sure we know exactly where it is, and we're going to wake up the pelvic diaphragm with the balls. So I'm sitting on a blanket. I'll need to come off of that for this part. We'll start with the right leg again, or right sits bone. So you're going to take this ball, and you're going to find that sits bone, and you're going to put the ball right underneath your sits bone. So you'll know if you go right around the bottom there, you'll feel the bone, and you don't have to be right on the bone. You can be slightly to the outside or the inside of the bone. I like to start with my right foot on the floor and my knee bent, and I can hold myself up with my hands, or you might be against a wall, because you may not be ready to put full weight into it. I'm not pushing in, I'm not pulling away, I'm just letting myself land on it. So it's like you're marking, right? You're marking your space of awareness. And then from there, I can do just like what I do with my foot. I can push into and pull away from. And you're just marking those two outside areas of the pelvic floor, but imagine the whole pelvic floor. I can push in and pull away. I can also gently roll, and if you are having a hard time rolling with the foot on the floor and the knee bent, you can take it out too and do it this way. It's just exploring, like it's a relationship, right? Explore the relationship of your mind staying present in this space. You're having a little date with your pelvic region, your pelvic diaphragm. And generally, a tennis ball might be too much. Definitely don't use a golf ball. Find something soothing. So when we do this kind of release, it's not meant to make you jump or grit your teeth. It should feel good. It's just drawing your awareness. That's all. If you can feel it, you're doing it. And you can move, just like with the foot. You can also just stop and be still and just compress into the ball. See what you find. And as you're doing this, think of that in Samana Vayu. You're assimilating, you're breathing in and out to the abdomen, whether it's physical or just imagining yourself. I'm big into imagining. Remember, wherever your awareness goes is where the energy flows. So awareness into the pelvic diaphragm. Maybe even venture down, think of the pelvic diaphragm saying hello to the foot, the diaphragm in your right foot. Feel that connection. And a few more rolls with the right side. And just mapping these areas in your body, helping your brain, your nervous system, your subtle body. And then we'll come off. Wherever you want your legs. And just sit and be still. Remap. Set that GPS again, or just notice where you are before you set the GPS. So once again, if we took a picture of you, your body may look the same, but does it feel the same on the two sides? Does right and left feel different in any way? Do you feel heavier or lighter in one side, bigger or smaller? This is all part of the nervous system remapping you. Notice how you're breathing. You can do the breathing to the abdomen. Focusing on the Samana Vayu. Absorbing all that's coming in right now, without question. Right? Make no comparisons, make no judgments, and delete the need to understand. And that's a tough one. And then we'll switch and do the other side. So still awareness down there. You can use a softer ball. We'll go in towards that left sits bone. I like to start with my knee bent and foot on the floor. I can support myself with my hands. You can go, so the sit bone is kind of like this shape. So you could go to the inside of the sit bone towards your pelvic floor or the outside. I usually try to avoid being right on the middle of the sits bone. So you can be one side or the other. So for me, starting out, I'm more on the inside towards the pelvic floor. That's where the pelvic floor muscles attach. If I go to the outside, feel the attachment point of a lot of the muscles in the back of the thigh, all kinds. It's like a superhighway of attachment points. But you can just fall into it first. Just feel yourself compress, just the weight of the left hip falling into the ball. Awareness in the pelvic floor. Or you can push into and pull away from. Just the gentlest way, just to not to cause an alarm of any sort, just to create sensation. Something for you to watch and be aware of. You can do that, and you can also roll. If you can roll with your knee bent and foot on the ground, go for it. I like to extend my leg to roll around. And now I'm getting more to the outside of the sits bone. Not straining in any way. If I can move my leg and still breathe to my abdomen or feel myself from my pelvic floor, it's all good. And maybe noticing that left side of the pelvic floor, the left sits bone, all the way down through the left leg and into the arch of the foot or the soft tissue of the foot. Just let them say hello to one another, reintroduce themselves. And you may find that one side wants you to move differently, or not move at all. You may have more sensitivity to one side than the other or in a particular space. Just finishing up with the left sits bone. Crossroad of info. All right, and then we'll come off of that. All right, if you've been sitting and standing, we're working our way down to a more comfortable position. We've made it through 2 of the Vayus and 2 of the diaphragms. So now I'm going to come all the way down, and we want to have our slo-mo ball handy. And I want you to come down into constructive rest first. So if you need to hug your knees in or anything like that, please feel free to. But then place your feet on the ground so that your feet are resting right about underneath your knees. So my legs are at a 90-degree angle, and I just drop my foot down. My feet are as wide as my hips, not wider, not narrower. And relax the whole back and spine. So we're going to do the breathing part of this first. So we're going into the thoracic diaphragm, the chest, or you can think of your respiratory diaphragm if you'd like. So if the bottom of the abdominal cavity is the pelvic bowl, the top is the respiratory diaphragm. But the top of the abdomen is the bottom of the chest, right? So that's where we are now. We're going to be in the chest cavity. And what you might even do is place your hands on your outer ribs or anywhere on your chest. You can place it on the ladies, or not so much up to the neck yet. Try to stay below the collarbones. We'll get there next. But see if you can redirect your breath, either just mentally imagining or feeling yourself breathing into your chest cavity, so above the diaphragm as opposed to below. And we are coming into our Prana Vayu. This is where it gets a little bit confusing because I already talked about prana as big P prana, which is that life force energy, the chi, so the all-encompassing. Prana has a second meaning, a second definition. Prana is one of the Vayus, is one of the wind energies. So one of the ways the big prana moves is through little Prana Vayu, okay? It's like you've got senior and junior here. So don't get confused by the names, 2 different things. So Prana Vayu, we're feeling it by breathing into the chest cavity. Prana Vayu is about inward, taking things inward. So remember, Apana was outward. Samana was assimilation and balance, and now we're coming inward. And in movement, Pranavayu is about forward propulsion. It's what keeps us moving forward. So if you want to experience your Pranavayu more on the physical level, notice your inhalation. Feel the fullness of your inhalation. Notice physically your chest cavity expanding. And slowly let it trickle back out. Feel yourself breathe in. Chest and lungs and heart. You might even pause at the top of the inhalation. And then a slow breath out. So we're focusing on that inward. However feels right for you, you can use your hands as a tool for awareness. Think forward and inward. Take a few more breaths. So we're just Familiarizing ourselves with this area through our breathing, and particularly through Prana Vayu, the incoming, the air. And if you can, breathe in your nose. That's okay. If not, you can use your mouth, but it's going to be easier to breathe down here if we breathe through our nose. If you'd like to exhale out your mouth, you're more than welcome to. But the focus is on the inhalation, Prana Vayu. Feel that freedom of expansion in your chest. Maybe even hold on to it just for a moment before you let it out. And then we're going to get ready to play with movement in this respiratory or chest, the thoracic diaphragm. So we're going to take the ball, and what I tell you with the ball is always make sure you don't need to sit up, but I'm going to always make sure that you recognize that with the balls, less is more in this area. So when I take air out, I want to be able to touch my hands together. And even this is pretty full, but this is about right for me. You may even want more air out. The ball is going to go to the back. If you think of where the bottoms of your shoulder blades are, divide. The bottoms of the shoulder blades are still in the chest cavity. The lumbar spine is in the abdominal cavity. And we're going to go to that space right in between. So think of the back of the lower blades of the shoulder blades. And the ball's going to go there. Your feet are on the ground with your knees bent. One thing you might find, and if the ball's too high, remember, take it down. But when you come down onto it, I'm going to get just the right spot. If your head is way back here and the front of your throat is stretching, then I want you to take a blanket, a pillow, or something and put it underneath your head to keep your neck in a neutral position. So we don't want to be way back here, but the other side is we don't want to prop up. I know everybody's used to like big pillows in their bed, right? We also don't want to prop the head up like this so the throat is closed, because as you're going to see, this is one of our diaphragms. So we're keeping that in a neutral position. Instead of looking down at our feet, we're keeping our head in a neutral position. So if you can't just land on it first, then you know there's too much air, or maybe it's slightly positioned wrong. But it's right at the lower tips of my shoulder blades is where I like to go. And you might be just above that. And think of your chest cavity. And see if you can initiate movement. So you're just going to let yourself fall. And we can do just like we did with the other ones. You can push into and pull away from the ball, just slightly. Push into and pull away from. Just sometimes the push into and pull away from gives you a familiarity of where is it that we're working? Where is our awareness? And after pushing into and pulling away from, you might find that you can, I'm moving my arms just so you can see, you can move from, think of moving from your rib cage. And it's as if your body's just floating. It's floating on that ball, making circles. If the head wants to respond, let it move. And see if you can simultaneously breathe and focus on that in-breath, the filling sensation as you're moving from the chest. So again, there's different readings on where the diaphragms are, get different information. But I like to think of the respiratory or thoracic diaphragm as connected to this Prana Vayu, because Prana Vayu centers itself in the chest. So moving in that space. Let your head and neck respond. Anytime you want, you can just stop and be still. Just breathe. Notice how when you breathe, when you're breathing in now, you might feel that compression of the ball in. It's resisting the backside of your body, and the front ribs expand. You could even keep your hands here, right? And then breathing out. falling into the ball. And then if you'd like, so we stop and land, you can move once again. And this time when you're moving, connect this respiratory diaphragm. Think of this space. It's like you've got these strings of awareness that goes from your respiratory diaphragm to the base of the spine, the sits bones, and the pelvic floor, and all the way to your feet. And just like when we were standing, your feet are on the floor, they're still grounded. You can still feel the Apana Vayu going down and out through your feet into the earth. You can sense your Samana Vayu assimilating, balancing in your abdomen. And now your Prana Vayu bringing in, bringing you forward. And feel all of those different movements through these areas. So intake, assimilation, and removal. You can do it through movement or stillness. It's like this super highway. There's lots of traffic. And all this traffic sort of honks at us and competes for our attention, right? It does. Our body, all these body parts are always competing for our attention, and usually whatever's the loudest gets the most attention, and unfortunately that's often the pain in our body. See if you can get some pleasurable experiences. Listen for the whispers, not just the honks. And then we'll relax once again. You can be still. We're going to be coming off the ball in a moment. When you go to do that, rather than sitting up, I'd like you to roll to one side or the other. So just roll to one side. You can even pause in your fetal curl. I'll take the ball out from behind me. You can relax in your fetal curl. If you want to move it all, feel free to. So the next thing we do, we're going to come into the cervical diaphragm, which is, I'm just going to say your throat. We're going to come into your throat. We're going to start once again with the breathing. But when we do this breathing, you're invited to do it lying down or seated. I'm going to come back up to seated. I find I have more awareness of the process when I'm seated, but if you are more comfortable on your back and you want to stay down here, please feel free to stay down. Okay? If you're coming up, then you can go right from your side, use your arms and walk yourself up. So cervical diaphragm has to do with, you can think of your tongue, your jaw, the throat, even the base of the throat. Just visualize those areas first. If you're coming into a seated position, find a comfortable space of seated position. And then I want you to just imagine that you just smelled something really yummy in the air. Maybe I've been making apple crisp, so the smell of apple crisp in the house, or pumpkin bread, whatever it is for you. And you're sniffing that in through your nose, and you're sniffing it in a way that you can almost taste it. And when you get that taste, I want you to sip it right into the base of the throat. So think of that little notch right between your collarbones, your sternal notch. Sip your breath into the base of the throat, underneath the collarbones. Just notice what that feels like. And feel the breath. So the path of the breath actually goes initially on the breath in, it's going upward through the nasal cavity to the point between the brows. And then the inhalation continues, but it goes downward through the back of the head and the throat to that space in the collarbones. That's your whole inhale. So there's like this candy cane shape. As you're exhaling, you're breathing from the throat, back up initially, and then the last part of the exhale actually comes down, right? Down and out the nose. So feel yourself physically the way you're breathing into this area of throat. Just familiarizing yourself. Make sure your head and neck is comfortable. And if not, what I'll encourage you to do is think of the space just below your nose and the base of your head right where my low ponytail is there. And you're going to just gently move yourself from your nose and your ponytail until your head is resting on the neck. Continue breathing into the base of the throat. So we're going to work into Vayana Vayu. And this one will be definitely leaving the physical realm of breathing, more into the subtle. So Udana is an expression of upward energy, coming in through the throat and through the head. But what I'd like to do is use these diaphragms and the Udana, connecting all of these diaphragms through Udana. So you might be lying down, you might be seated. But I want you to think of your breath in starting from your feet, the diaphragm in your feet, and let the breath in come up through your legs, from your feet through your legs, to the pelvic floor, all the way up through the abdominal cavity, the chest cavity, coming all the way to the crown of the head. So Udana, bringing it upward, this upward expression. And then as you exhale, just let it come back down to the base of the throat and hold your awareness to the base of the throat. So we keep it up above the collarbones. Imagine breath starting from the feet, like you're drawing the energy of the earth through the feet, through the pelvic floor diaphragm, respiratory diaphragm, through the throat and all the way up. And as we breathe out, we just bring it back down to that level of throat. So this is a little bit more sophisticated, like I said, subtle, a little more woo-woo perhaps, but it's a fantastic way to learn how to use Vayana Vayu. But if you want to go back to the, I really like the pumpkin bread, Megan, and I just want to sniff that into the base of my throat, all good. We're going to take a few more rounds of breath, either visualizing that upward energy all the way through, like it's coursing through your body. Think of it as your breath is a vibration. It's coming up through your body, and it connects all of those diaphragms. It's bringing all those body cavities together. And the breath out, we just gently let it sink back to the base of the throat. So this is our space of self-expression. And rather than moving physically through balls or posture, we're going to move through chanting, because that's one of the best ways to vibrate and move the throat. So I want you to just feel the space of your throat, feel your inhale and your exhale. And make a like you're sighing, but make that an H sound. So take a breath in. And notice what you feel in your throat. Mine's a little grippy today. So we're going to turn that into a hum. So there's a Notice even the way your facial features change. So we breathe in. Breathing in. So you're at home, do it on your own. Maybe your animals are all coming around. My animals love when I chant. So this is the bija seed sound for the throat. And you can really let yourself hang in the ha. You can go to the or the But I want you to feel all of those vibrations throughout your throat and your cervical area. Think of the base of the skull, from the base of the skull, all the way down to the sternal notch. We're giving that area a little bit of good juju. And one of the things I like to play with is traditionally breathe in and out the nose when we chant. But you might find, so I like to close my mouth. Then I feel a lot more vibration in my tongue and my teeth, the bottom of my jaw. But you can also and let the mouth open. So either way, just play with feeling that vibration in the neck, keeping your spine comfortably sitting in a way that the head can rest on top and shoulders over the hips, or you might be doing this on the ground. One more option, if chanting is new for you, using the chanting as a vibrational frequency, then I encourage you, take your hands gently, very gently to your throat, and see what you can feel with your hands. Sometimes our hands are that extra little understanding that we need to really feel what we're creating. So starting from here. So there's a lovely resonance that we create in the throat and jaw. And just pause for a moment. Imagine that resonance flowing through your whole body, upward from your feet, all the way to the crown of the head. What if we could just vibrate the whole body like that? Wouldn't that be lovely? Okay. So we have one more diaphragm. We're getting to number 5 today. And the last one we do is the cranial diaphragm. Cranium, your head. What I want to mention to you is if I said, where's your head begin and end? Everybody's going to do this, right? But we already did this. So I want you to understand that the jaw is part of the neck and throat. Our head actually ends at the base of the skull. So if you touch that area where low ponytail is and come around underneath the ears, you'll feel that little hollowing out right by your ears, across the top of the jawbone, right at that mandible joint, and keep coming across. Notice where your fingers land, underneath your nose, right? They didn't land underneath my chin, they landed right here. So that's the bottom of your head, from the ponytail to the base of the nose. Or I think of the soft palate in your mouth. Think of this, the roof of your mouth, right? So this is the area that we're working now when we come into the cranial diaphragm. And I'm going to have you do this one lying down because this is going to take us right into Shavasana, or relaxation. And knowing that, what I'd encourage you to do is, so I'm going to set myself up the way I like to. Hopefully I won't fall asleep on you. Which is to put a bolster underneath the knees so my legs can be long but relaxed. I might even put a blanket on my body. If you'd like to do a blanket, put something underneath your head. And then you're going to want that small ball again. And more than likely, the amount of air you have in it, unless you completely deflated it, the amount of air you had in it to go under your back is probably about right. So you can grab that. In fact, I'm going to take my glasses off when I get down there. So I'm going to come down. And first, I just want to rest for a moment, because we're going to start with the breathing. So if you have a pillow for now, that's okay, but we're going to switch it out with a ball. Get yourself cozy and comfy, so that might mean wiggling. Notice your feet. You can shake out your feet. Notice your pelvis. You can rock your pelvis side to side a little bit. Feel that beautiful rib cage. Move your rib cage around. All these areas that we just found, and now we're so familiar with them, right? And then your throat. You can think of, so a no, if we do a no movement, that actually comes from the neck, versus yes comes from the cranium. So just a gentle no movement to let your neck rest in the center. I'm going to take my ponytail out because it's really bugging me. All right. So coming into, think of this area of the top of the head to the back of the ponytail or the nose, and just feeling that area. So once you're comfortable, we'll start, once again, just awareness first in the cranial diaphragm, or think of the head. So you might even massage the base of your skull. Notice where it's touching the ground. So that's the bottom of it. The top is the crown of the head. You can come around to the front. Think of that area. And we're going to work with Vayana Vayu, the last of the Vayus. And I always think they save the best for last. It's my very favorite. So Vayana Vayu is all pervasive. It's everywhere inside of you, outside of you. If you imagine yourself right now from a standpoint of the nervous system, we could see our brain as it's like the computer for our nervous system, but all of those nerves that run through the spine, the main path, right, the superhighways, and then out into the periphery, all those tiny little nerves to the tips of the fingers and the toes. That's kind of how I see Vayana Vayu, is it's this huge road of both intake and out. So it's always bringing things in and out, but all pervasive in your body. Vayana Vayu is actually centered in your heart, though. So what I want you to start to do with the breathing is start your inhale and visualize the skull, or however you want to see this area of your cranial diaphragm. And on that inhalation, bring your awareness from the cranium to the heart center. That's where we center that Vayana Vayu. As you breathe out, see yourself breathing from the heart center into all of the spaces of your body. So that breath can go from the heart, down the arms to the fingertips, down the legs to the toes, and back up from the heart to the crown of the head. It can touch the whole back surface of your body, the sides, the front. So if you were driving your breath right now, we start awareness in the cranium, or the brain, your skull. Breathing in, bring the awareness down to the heart. So at the end of the inhale, the top of the inhale, we have awareness in the heart. And then breathe out and send all of that through your whole body, even outside of your body. This is as subtle as it gets. Just feeling yourself breathing into the brow, bringing that awareness to the heart center, and then sending it through the entire periphery of your body. That whole piece of fabric that's gently resting on the ground, fully supported. The ground is receiving the weight of your body. Everything is relaxed. And before I lose you completely to Shavasana, we are going to do just a tiny bit of movement for this one. So you're going to take the ball and you're going to put it underneath the head. So if you have a blanket or pillow there, switch it out. Right underneath that cranium. So cradle your cranium. I'm not under my neck back here. I'm under my head. Let your head be cradled. It deserves it, right? And fall in first, just as we did with the feet, with the pelvic floor, the respiratory diaphragm. Fall in. Just feel that. And then I'm going to take my glasses off. Works much better for this one. You can make gentle no movements, but recognize the no is a little bit more of a movement from the neck. See if you can move from the back of the low ponytail on the nose and say yes. So you're truly moving your cranium And imagine, and you can go a little side to side too, or making circles with your nose. So we move from the nose as opposed to the jaw, or the base of the skull. And you're not lifting your head. The weight of the head is completely relaxed. If you're able to do this to the breath, you could still breathe in. Feel the skull. Now you notice this is sensation of the skull resting on the ball. Bring the awareness to the heart center at the top of the inhale and exhale through the whole body. Let the whole body relax. Or maybe feel that energy go from the heart. It went through the throat, through the cervical diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm, the pelvic floor, and all the way back to the soles of your feet. Feel that sense of interconnectedness. Just a really slow, almost like a sensuous movement for the head. We are not bobbleheads. Just the slightest movement. Like you're giving your brain a massage. And always checking that you're not holding your head up, so we're not pushing into or pulling away from. If you are, do it once or twice, push and pull away, and then just receive. Let the ball receive the weight of your head. You can stop for a moment and pause. We're going to move the head one more time, and this time it's as if you have cameras. I like to think of cameras on the soles of your feet, those arches, soft tissue. You have a camera on the pelvic floor. You have a camera in the chest and the respiratory area, the respiratory diaphragm, and the throat, and now right in the brow point. And those cameras can all see each other. If any other parts of your body want to respond or wiggle or move, feel free to do that. And we're going to go straight into our relaxation, as I said. So if you're enjoying the ball, you can keep it there. If in any way it's causing strain, please remove it. As far as working with the breath, maybe pick a Vayu that felt best for you, because it gets complicated when we're trying to do more than one and when this is new for us. So you may have really liked doing the Apana Vayu and breathing out and down. So if you know you need to do more purifying, more getting rid of, right, eliminating, work with the Apana, exhalation, send it all out your legs and your feet. If you really like to breathe to the belly physically, then think about the Samana Vayu, the assimilation in the pelvic floor, the connection to the pelvic floor, all your abdominal organs. You can come into your Prana Vayu, breathing more into the chest cavity. Think of your respiratory diaphragm. Or into Udana Vayu in the throat, base of the throat, the jaw, the tongue. And that's upward, not just through there, but the whole body. Pranavayu was inward and forward. And then finally the Vayana Vayu, and all pervasive. So it's connecting everything, every cell of your body, every nerve, every muscle and bone, all of the tissues, the connective tissues. And invite yourself to just be in this space for a few more minutes in silence, however you can stay connected. Continue to be in this restful state of awareness for as long as you'd like. You can stay on your back, completely relaxed, or if you're practicing seated meditation, this might be an open invitation for you to do that. Body may be in that space and ready for that. If so, you can do it lying down or come to a seated position. I am practicing Akini Mudra, which if you take your hands together in prayer hands and open up the palms and turn the palms upwards so the fingertips are just touching. And let your arms rest. Akini Mudra is about stimulating all of the Vayus and all of the energy centers, and I believe all of the diaphragms of the body. So feeling the integrity and the wholeness of yourself. Even in somatics, we sometimes get lost in the, I'm using this muscle, or I am that muscle, or I am this joint, I am this bone. You are a whole. Feel yourself as a whole. Whole being, and not just muscles and joints, thoughts, emotions, the breath. All of these parts of you that make up the individual that you are. And the more we connect with that individuality, the more we see ourselves as a whole, not only a whole as our individual human being, but a whole as a society, as a world. We all start out with the same bones and muscles and tissues. But we all experience our perception of these bones and muscles and tissues different. Different on different days even. Thank you for exploring your diaphragms with me, your partitions. And also for exploring the Vayus, the wind energies with me. Peace, joy, love, and light.